Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. A little bit of a workaround today. All right. So QR code up on the TV. If you've already scanned that, it's great. URL will take you to the market update that we'll be going over today. You should also have packets in front of you, which have to print out because I know sometimes it can be hard. Zoom people, obviously you don't have a packet in front of you, but being on your screens, it should be a little bit easier to see the numbers. So we will go ahead and get started. I'll make sure to put the QR code up after as well in case we get any last minute people jumping on. Let me let a couple more people onto Zoom actually. So boom, boom. And thank you, Courtney. I'm going to make you a co-host just so you can let people in case they pop in. All right. And then I do have the streaming. So if after the fact there's something you're like, I swear he said something, you'll be able to go to our YouTube channel and check that all out. So, all right. So let's dive into this so we can wrap up on time. So this QR code that you scanned is going to take you to the program that I use called Flipstack. Makes it look like a magazine. Just know that right now, what you're going to see on your computer screens or here on the TV in the market center is going to be the PDF of it. I downloaded because that way one page fills the screen instead of two of them and making it easier to see. So if this is a new thing for you, the market update, if you're watching this for the first time, whether the recording or here live, this magazine, we do put them together every month. And the goal with the market update is to help provide you guys with a much more digestible information about what's going on in the market. Right now, I keep joking every market update that we basically have a very like kind of the market isn't doing anything like crazy. It's a buyer's market, rates are sitting still, that kind of stuff. But from a month-to-month basis, it's important to understand because I'll give you guys an example. In December to January, I was very strong. Like if you have somebody that's thinking about selling, in spring, do your best to try to convince them to do it like now because inventory was down during the normal holiday season and we saw an uptick in demand. And a lot of people saw some really positive things come out of their December listings. By the February market update, I had to share with you guys that was very short lived, right? We had a 22% increase in inventory. Demand was actually lower than it was a year ago, same time. So that, like, long story short, was very short lived. Hello, sir. Hello, hello. So our goal is to like make it like digestible information for you and your clients. The magazine is completely focused on something that you can be feel proud of delivering to your clients, to your potential sellers, buyers, help kind of serve as a third-party resource for you guys instead of you having to show up to your listing appointment and share this information with them. So one thing I don't know if I've ever pointed out, when you have the magazine up on your laptop or computer, these each of those table of content, so where it says like local market, hyper focus, if you click on those, it'll take you to that page directly. So now that being said, I do always write a new perspective every month. It's not one that I'm going to read out loud to you guys because that would be boring to sit here and listen to me read that. But I write it every month with the intention that whether for you guys or your clients, it sets the tone for the rest of the magazine and this edition of the market update. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So those of you here in the office, this is the first page in your packet. So as always, right here talking about the local market. One thing I do want to always point out, I am going to be sharing what's happening in the greater Phoenix area, right? A lot more relatable for our market centers. So, if you're the agent that's like, well, I was on Armless this morning and clicked active and, yeah, that's all of Armless. That number is going to be bigger than what you see on this piece of paper because that's going to reflect everywhere from show low to Rocky Point. I joke, right? Like, low is a listing in Rocky Point. So, okay. So this is what's happening in Greater Phoenix. So as of March 10th, right? So a couple of days ago, we were at 22,444 active listings in Greater Phoenix. As you can see, I already told you we had an increase in inventory last month, and the number is now another 6% greater than it was last month. Now, that being said, we had a 6% increase, but if you look, we had a decrease in new listings. You guys see that red number? I think these came out a little bit in black and white, but one thing to keep in mind is the only reason that number is negative in the new listings is because we had a really big January in the new listing department, right? So we had 10,559 new listings in January. This month, I'm just joking when I say only, right? We only had 9,756. Okay. So we were only 250 new listings shy of hitting 10,000 new listings again, right? So it was a very strong new listing month. And what is this kind of telling us? So we are 100% experiencing like that pent up seller desire to sell, right? Like if you guys remember about I want to say it was a January market update. So 2 market updates ago, I shared with you a company that an MLS, Bright MLS, they're out of the Mid-Atlantic area. They did a study and, it was a nationwide study. I also joked, I guess you can do a study with only like 1,500 people and call it a nationwide study, but nonetheless, they did a study and out of 1,500 people, 1,500 homeowners specifically, 1 out of 5 of them were like, I have a vision of like potentially selling my home in 2025, right? And so their whole point from Bright MLS was 2 things. Number one was, yeah, people are tired of waiting, right? And the other interesting part was that 36% of those 1 out of 5s were pandemic buyers. So they had bought during that COVID era, right? And so I think sometimes we think about the person that bought the $800,000 home and was willing to pay $100,000 over and, got, their dream home. But I think we tend to forget about the person that had to get into the house that was $100,000 cheaper than they desired because they knew they were going to have to offer $50,000-$60,000 over. And unfortunately, here we are 4 or 5, well, depending on when they bought, but anywhere from 2 to 4 years later, and they might feel like their home is a prison, right? They're not content with the size of it. They love something now, and they were hoping that things may they got through what they. I'm sorry. Let's word it this way. They potentially thought that they were going to get through this whole interest rate thing of them, being higher. That we thought it was going to be a blip, and so now here we are in 25, and they're like, never mind. I got to move on, right? Like life happens. It is, if I can afford it, I'd like to move on, right? So that's what we're seeing here. Okay. We are still seeing that seller, like I use the word seller demand. You'll see in that bottom paragraph. I know that might be a little confusing, but what I'm saying is when I say seller demand, that doesn't mean it's mirrored by buyer demand. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Okay. So sellers are looking to move, and it's evident by our inventory increases. Okay. So, all right. So if we move on to the next page, let's talk about some 4 facts here to discuss, right? So these are here to have a conversation with your clients. Look, at the end of the day, here's what we're dealing with is that we have that inventory surge, right? We're talking about 44% more than we were a year ago. Now, I do want to go back 1 page. Again, all of Armless is up 44%, right? All of Armless. Let's also talk about, like you guys can see this in the new active listings right here. In Greater Phoenix, that number is only up 31% though. Okay. So if you hear those stats, if you're, with Tina or, it doesn't matter, you see a Facebook post, all of Armless is up like 44%, but luckily we're not seeing as big in Greater Phoenix, only at 31% compared to 12 months ago. Okay. So just keep that in mind. But it is important to know that all of Armless is up 44% year over year. So what does that mean, right? If you're a buyer, like I keep joking about this, but it's just the truth, right? If you're buyer heavy, awesome, right? Like the only thing that could be bad is that you feel like you are a touring agent right now and you're going to property to property to property to property to property because there's so much for them to look at most times, right? Real estate is hyper local. I still have clients that are yet to send me another property in the last 3 months if nothing's come up at the intersection that they want, right? Again, real estate is hyper local. That being said, big picture, buyers have negotiation power. They have the ability to ask for things. One of our agents at the Awatuki office yesterday pointed out killer deal through OfferPad because I'm sure they're tired of holding on to their listings, right? They thought that this would be over by now. He said that a 325 property, they 512 or 325, regardless, the 25, they ended up at 312 and $16,000 in concession. They ended up at under 300 after concession, right? Um, I saw Open Doors got an increase in their active listings. I'm sure they're wanting to move property, right? So, Mr. Brad, welcome, sir. How are you? So keep that in mind, right? You start investment property, and Open Door and OfferPad are much easier to see and know that they're investment properties compared to like, wholesalers or flippers. Like you could assume off an LLC, but it's not as obvious as when Open Door and OfferPad list them, right? And so it may be good property to go after in that regard because of they know what they're up against right now as well. So sellers need to beware, right? The more supply means tougher competition. We got to get more creative, and we're going to talk about that a lot in this market update. So now, this is one of those things. I want to be really clear. What I'm about to share with you, what you've probably already read, that fourth fact. We are in real estate. Our goal is to help people acquire home ownership. Don't ever forget that. So sometimes things suck for sellers or homeowners who are looking to maximize their equity. Okay. But this is a great thing. We have a housing bill that is in the works that will loosen up zoning restrictions to make it better for new builders to build starter homes. Because right now, building a starter home is not profitable for a builder. By the time they pay for zoning fees, permits, buy the land, build it, their workers and etc., they're not showing up going, yes, let me sell this for 300,000. Okay. So this is one of the bigger things that this administration is talking about, making state land available that wasn't available before, loosening up zoning and restriction. We didn't have homes built during these last 15 years because they were lazy. It just didn't make sense to build smaller tract homes. Like, no matter how small they made the homes, it was just not affordable or profitable as a business model for the builders. So that's a really good thing. So as we move on right here to like what the heck is going on, I really just more expand on those four facts. But one that I really want to touch on is on the next page after this, we're going to talk about average price per square foot. Here's what I need you guys to know. I have been paying super close attention through the eyes of the consumer, and we're gonna touch on a few things today. One of those things is average price per square foot, right? I hope that as real estate agents, you guys are in the know, in the loop that average isn't the best marker to go by. It's really more median, but the reality, because median, if you stack up 100 things, it's going to go slice one and slice 100, slice two, slice 99, and then what's in the middle, right? And that is the best way to look at things. The reason that you'll see in the market update that I talk about average price per square foot is the consumer isn't having that conversation. The consumer is being told what the average price per square foot is out there. And right now it's extremely, extremely elevated because of luxury. Luxury continues to succeed. So, our groups like BVO that bat at luxury, and they're having a field day right now, right? But our mid tiers are not. And there can be a lot of confusion that all price points are doing okay because luxury is driving up this average price per square foot number. Okay. Because last month there was an increase in 6 million plus homes that sold in the valley. This month it was an increase in the 2 to 5 million range. And so you'll see here in a little bit that what that number is, but I want to make sure that we are aware of what luxury is having an impact, and for your clients and yourselves to not fall into the mindset that hey, everything's okay because of that. So yeah.
That new house bill, is that just for the federal land or is it zone changes throughout?
That housing bill is supposed to impact like the entire country, like period, but it's not just for federal land. So yeah. So they also have plans for like the federal land and state land to try to make those available, but they are also having trying to change zoning laws as well in addition.
Okay.
It is separate. Yeah. Mhm. I mean, if they overlap a little bit, but the zoning is supposed to be independent from whether they want to, provide federal land. Yeah, correct. Yep. And then mortgage rates, still a challenge, right? Affordability is still a challenge. Like it now requires a lot more of somebody's income to qualify for a house. For about 17 years, it only required 20% of people's income for principal and interest, right? Like the principal interest only represented about 20% of our income for about 17 years and now represents 32%, right? For affordability is an issue. It's turned into a tricky situation. And while, I think you guys know the cadence of this report right now, I talk about interest rates like almost at the very end, but I'm talking about interest rates now because it's important to understand we got a little bit of a break. We're down to like 6.7 right now. So, everybody be a little bit happy. I know it's not the greatest, but we were above 7 for like the last 2 months. So we got a little bit of a break. That being said, I want to ask a question. Raise your hand if you want interest rates to be lowered. Just one per, yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, yeah. Raise your hand if you think they should be lowered. Okay, good. Do you guys know why you think that? I promise there's a point to this activity. So.
The prices are already overly elevated, and I think that is just the problem.
Yeah.
It would be a nice little temporary.
Yeah, it'd be a little like, hey, give it to us for like a month.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Does anybody else know why they think they shouldn't? That's a great one, Kyle. So by the way, so yeah.
Why
Anybody
they
else?
shouldn't be lowered?
Yeah. So I asked the question, do we want them? Yeah, we want them, but do we think
I mean,
they
my stats might be off. I haven't checked the numbers in a while, but to my understanding, there's 46% of Americans are waiting on the sidelines for the rates to drop. So if
Yeah.
that much came onto the market all at once, we're going to be looking at 2020 all over again, and the prices haven't sank low enough to recoup from the price range of the last time. So I think that it would be better if they keep it lower and owners are buying what they can afford versus what they want.
Yeah, which is really great. Great job, Laura. Like, so the markers, and let me translate this into what she just said. There's all really great things, and that for 46% is, I agree. There are a lot more, even though people are still coming to the market, it is still a pent up situation that we're dealing with. Like people would love, and so this was said really well by an agent yesterday, is that there are plenty that want to, it doesn't mean that they will do what it takes, right? They may not drop the price to what it needs to. They may come and test the market. And I'm sure some of us have experienced that where it's like, you got to be like 50,000 lower, but I entertained you and took the listing, and they won't ever get down that extra 50,000 that they need to, right? And so there's a difference between want and will. And because somebody said, well, if there's all these people that are coming to the market, at least the last 2 months here in Phoenix, don't they need somewhere to live? Right? Aren't they going to go somewhere? And I go, yes, but are they willing to do what they need to with their current house to get to that next place? Right? They don't turn into a buyer if they aren't willing to do what they need to with their current listing, right? And so we just finished February. GDP above the marker, our threshold of 2%. We finished at 3. Inflation still finished at 3. We're aiming for 2. Like we as a society are only complaining, but our behavior is like, oh, well, like I'm still going to write the check. I'm still going to give my credit card. I'm still going to spend my money. So there is a huge disconnect between what we're saying and how we're acting, which is a very interesting thing. Okay. So by definition, and our Fed chair is like, I don't know if anybody's interviewing about anything else other than, are you going to drop interest rates? Right. And every single time he's like, no, because nothing says we should, right? because Laura nailed it. If we go and do that again, we're just going to experience COVID years all over again. If we drop to like 4.5%, we like Phoenix would be average price point of 750, right? Sounds cool as a real estate agent that your average commission be like $20,000-$30,000, but affordability goes right out the door, right? And so as of right now, it makes no sense to drop interest rates. I would be shocked if we saw anything like if we saw flat six, I'd tell your like anybody that misses that because I think they'd bump it up to like 6.5 within like a month or two if we ever saw those, break down. So I agree. I'd love to see it even temporarily, but I keep joking that if rates ever saw 5 or 4 anytime soon right now, that like we would all be rich in like 6 months. And then I hope you know what to redo with that money outside of the real estate industry because our job would suck after that. Right? Like our pipeline would be extremely dry after that because it just would not be affordable, right? The average person wouldn't be able to make a move. So okay, so let me go ahead and switch to the magazine real quick so I can open this for you guys. But as you guys know, we always talk about the Cromford Report and where we are there. So I'm going to, this is, if you're here in the office, this is your second to last page in your packet so that way you don't have to squint your eyes. You can see here, per demand across all 4 offices, I finally didn't forget to do it, which is I did update the score numbers required to be in that category, right? So you can see under seller's market, it says 110 plus, right? To be in a balanced market or considered a balanced market, it's between 90 and 110, and a buyer's market 0 to 90. So you can see that Chandler is the only city kind of really hanging on to a number that's well above 100. The other cities, the next you have Scottsdale at 125, then Tempe at 122, and so forth. We have you start getting closer to the bottom of the list, you have your buyer's market, right? Now, guys, be very clear. This is a very interesting thing. If you're a buyer's agent in your world, this list is like upside down, right? Like if you happen to be like my pipeline has like 7 buyers and I have 1 listing, like this list psychologically is like upside down. Like you'd be like, this is a good thing because buyer's market means better negotiation power for your buyers, right? But when we look at this, we're going to view this in terms of demand, right? Supply and demand. So the cities in the blue, they are supply heavy, very, very low demand, right? So I think the Melendez share, they're like, hey, good year, buyer's market. That's why using very specific strategies that we're going to talk about here in a couple of pages become important to drive up showings because there is so much supply. How do you stand out? And we're going to talk about that today. I love it, by the way, just because it's in our backyard, Anthem. Like this is how in tune the Melendez are with Anthem, right? Because I think last month I was like, hey, it's at like a 150 seller's market, and like that market update, they're like, there's no way that's still that, right? And here we are, it's already dropped down to 129, already much cooler seller's market. So know that when we show these numbers, something can change so quickly that even by my market update, it's like, even though this graph came out, my first market update was on Tuesday. This graph was made. What was Monday? The 10th, the 11th? This one is from March 6th. You guys can see the date up there. If you guys look on this column right here, March 6th, okay? Because Cromford Report does it roughly about every 2 weeks. They come out with this chart, okay? So I share that with you because like anything could have happened this last week that the smaller areas like El Mirage could be hotter, could be colder already in that short amount of time. So please keep that in mind. But you are going to see that the majority of the cities did decrease, meaning a negative, like a downward arrow means that it's cooling off. It is, and it better for buyers, worse for sellers is the way to really look at those arrows, right? Green, Cave Creek got a 7% bump. It wasn't a balanced market. Whatever happened this last 30 days led to it getting like it is right there on the cusp, 110.4, right? It is barely back into a seller's market. Okay. Now, I want to make something really clear. I believe I shared this with you guys last month, but I do want to make sure we're on the same page. So I had an agent come to me. Okay. This is why it's important to understand real estate is hyper local, like down to the zip code, down to the neighborhood. Chandler. Okay, I just want to make sure. Do we all agree that Chandler right now, you'd be like, if I got a listing in Chandler, that'd be awesome because it's in a stronger seller's market. Yes? It's the strongest one out of the 17 major cities, right? Okay, so I don't know how familiar you guys here are with Chandler, but an agent came up to me from an East Valley office and they go, hey, this, like, you're telling me this, but I have nothing happening on my Chandler property. And like, I think I priced it right. Like, what is wrong, right? And I said, well, let's take a look. So one thing I want to point out, so we're all on the same page. Has everybody here used Rapid Stats? At least once. Jody does. RapidStats.com is included with your armless subscription. You go there, it's going to ask you to log in. You're going to be like, I know that box. That's the same one when I'm trying to log into Flex MLS. Okay. So we pulled up his property, 85249. That is a zip code in Chandler. He had a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot home. So in Rapid Stats, went there and I said, hey, I unselected every zip code, typed in 85249, selected that one. All I was looking at, that zip code. Okay. Because guys, pause and I'll tell you the rest of the story. For too long, for 13 years, I've been in real estate this last February, 10 of it, all I ever did was run comps on the home exactly how every single person in this room has been taught. Go to the MLS, put a circle radius around the property, 1 mile, maybe 1.5, if you knew that comp sucked, right? Like, or the quantity of comp sucked, right? You're like, okay, if I have a 3,000 square foot home, let's maybe go down to 2,500, 2,600, 2,700, go up to 3,300, 3,400. Hey, does it have a pool? Oh, it does. Great. Show me only ones with a pool. Is it 1 story? Is it 2 story? We start looking so minute that we go, well, if there's only one comp, there's only one comp because it was that home with a pool that's 2 story, that's 3,000, right? We have to zoom out right now because let me tell you what didn't happen with this particular agent. And I believe that this is probably happening times 1,000 times across the valley. We go to Rapid Stats and I go, I only want to see 85249. And he had a 3,300 square foot home. So I said, show me the 3,000 to 4,000 range for that zip code. Give me the stats for it. Okay. If you've been on Rapid Stats, you're following. You might be like, I have no idea what Rapid Stats is. You'd be like, what is happening, right? But if you've been on it, you go, I know what you're looking at, Alex, right? You did that, you click next, and then it's like active listings, new listings, under contract, sold, right? Okay. Guess how many listings had popped up? How many had gone under contract for 85249, 3,000 to 4,000? The entire zip code, 3,000 to 4,000 square foot homes.
Yeah.
Good guess. Not right there. Close.
8.
No. Closer to Brad.
1.
One listing for 3,000 to 4,000 square feet. I don't know if you guys like, do you guys have a, I'm guessing as a master plan development, you have a ton of 3,000 to 4,000 square foot homes in Anthem, right? Like a ton.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Okay, like in Chandler, 3,000 to 4,000 is very common. Like it was like suburb area. Of course, they got bigger homes. Like, okay, just to be clear, like this isn't like, you know, Bethany Road or Bethany Home in Central, where you're like, no, that'd be a really big home in that area. Like this is very common. Okay. One went under contract. One had sold. Oh, by the way, let's go back to under contract. You know what it said? What was the percent of change from the month prior? 0. One had only gone under contract the month before that. Makes sense because only one sold. For 2 months in a row, only one home of that type had gone under contract. How many were on the market? 10. Let me ask you guys this question, and I want you to like look internally to yourselves. Do you think that agent had that conversation with their seller? So you have to start looking at this dramatically different. This market update, you're gonna see this in a second, is really more focused on how to be a better listing agent right now because it sucks out there. It is a whole different, if you have the one listing that got multiple offers, congratulations. That is not the norm right now. If you are not looking on how to advertise your listing differently and be a better listing agent, like it's really, really tough. So, so please be careful, even though Chandler is performing great, given the market state, like a zip code could be completely, a zip code in a square footage range could be completely different. Are you guys ready for this? Same zip code. I unchecked mark 3,000 to 4,000 and I check marked 2 to 3,000. Now guess how many had gone under contract? Too low. 13. 13 times the amount, just 1,000 square feet smaller. Probably, I mean, at you know, Chandler is at $300 a square foot, like, sure, yeah, probably. But a massive range nonetheless, right? Saying what? People are scared, like until you get into luxury, right? Because let me tell you, he was priced at like 835, 815, something like somewhere above 8, right? They were. And like, keep in mind, why is that scary? A 3,000 to 4,000 square foot home says you're a lot more money. You're a lot more in utilities and my electric bill and my water bill. Does it have a pool? Right? Am I ready to spend $700 a month to support that home and the interest rate payments? Okay. So affordability is having a massive impact. I mean, like, guys, I don't know about you, but like that blew my mind. I mean, 13 to 1 over 1,000 square foot difference.
Going backwards on the one, we can answer, you can answer later if you like. With the one that went under contract and the 10 that was sitting, what was the price difference between?
$25,000.
25,000, and where was he at? Was he?
Oh, I'm sorry, lower than him.
So he was, that one that went under contract was $25,000 less.
Which happened to be the cheapest at the moment.
Okay.
So the cheapest property won out of all the ones that were on the market at that moment. Yeah. Still above 800, but it was the better price.
And all the 10 that are on there, he's wearing that 10.
Now?
Yeah. Well,
so at that time of that activity, I want to say it was 4 or 5. And I go, hey, like, have you had that conversation? Like, there are 10, you have to figure out how to be number 1. That combo never happened. I know because he told me, and like, I didn't need him to tell me. And I probably like, and if I spoke to 8 out of 10 agents, they're never going to have that combo unless they sit through something like this and go, oh shit. Okay.
Today, but I asked you
well,
when it expired.
No, when you say today to lower the price, this starts at the initial consultation, right? It's not about lowering the price. It's about we need to start price correctly, right? And here's the thing, this you know, I touched on this, and everybody here got their real estate license, and depending on when you got it, this didn't need to be true, right? I got mine 13 years ago, didn't need to be true. If you got your real estate license recently, sir, right? And by the way, all of us who have had our license for years, if not decades, this naturally happened to us and we don't even know it. We also agreed to be therapists. Okay. We are now therapists if you're going to be a listing agent. You now have to show up to a listing appointment. And if anybody here has been in therapy, and if you haven't, congratulations, here's a lesson. You will be taught that emotions are valid. They're just not always justified. That you have to allow the emotions to be real. They just may not be true. And you have to let that seller ride the roller coaster of emotions with you. You have to let them say, well, I think my house is this because I put in this amount of work and my house is better than the next house. And well, that's not in my neighborhood and it's blah, 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 blah. And you go, totally, I hear you. I understand. If I was in your shoes, I'd be saying the same thing. If you don't know how to be a therapist in this market, you're having a hard time being a great listing agent. Because when you show up swinging the bat that is facts, they're gonna hate you. They're gonna go with the person that will let them take the listing for higher, but probably is a shitty agent and doesn't know how to ask for price drop later on, and they're on the market and then they're expired. Like the over 1,000 expired listings that are happening every month. Okay. So you're our therapist, whether you like it or not. You got your real estate license, and they're like, we're just gonna tag this on. You're a therapist, not licensed therapist, but you're a therapist nonetheless. So when you go through that, you need to allow them to kind of like sit in their emotions, and you have to sit in their emotions with them. And then upon that, can you ask for permission to be like, listen, can I actually sit with you? And like, I hear you. Can we now come up with like some logical steps to what you're feeling and see if they match up with your goals? And if you pulled up rapid stats, if you were that agent, and once they got to get that off their chest, and then you show them rapid stats, then you go 10 and 1 went under contract. What does that say to you, Mr. or Mrs. Seller? Well, are we ever going to sell in that? Like, do I have to give the home away? Let's see what giving it away means. Well, they were at 810, and look at the other ones, we're all above that. So yeah, the one buyer chose the 810. Could you see yourself listing this home for 800,000 so that we could outperform these other listings right now? Oh, that's crazy. No way. That's giving my house away. You go, great. What makes you feel that way? Well, I put in so much work into it, and I go, I love that. Do you mind if we have a conversation about where you gain most of your equity? Yeah, I guess. What do you mean? I know you put a lot of work into it. I love that. That's probably the difference of you being 800 today versus 725 or 700 today, right? That is taken into consideration. But can I ask you, where's your mindset about the free equity you gained from 2020 to 2022? Where you got 15 years worth of equity in 2.5 years? I'm sorry, I love all of you, and I've said this at every market center. There is no way in hell that script's been used at a listing presentation. It has been, okay, what do you want to sell your house for? Well, I don't know. That's a little high, but okay, I'll take the listing. Can you sign here, please? And then you're coming to me stressed. Why is my listing not selling? Well, you took an overpriced listing, and you didn't tell them that there was only one going under contract out of 10. And you didn't market the property effectively. So I know, I don't mean to be a downer, but this is what it looks like to have skill in this market. This is what, do you guys remember what happened in 23? NAR came out with a stat when they realized we were headed into a buyer's market. 75% of our industry had never experienced the buyer's market, only the seller's market from the recession all the way to 23. 75% of us had no idea what it was like to be in this market. I didn't. 13 years. I only knew a seller's market. That had a crappy short, distressed property market of short sales and foreclosures, but nonetheless, a seller's market, right? We don't know what this is like to do the complete opposite of what we just did. We are literally experiencing the, by the way, I laughed when as I'm talking to you guys, you want to know like what my brain does? You want to know what document is in my head right now? Market conditions advisory. The real estate market is cyclical. Hell yeah, it is. We are literally feeling the opposite of what we just got during the pandemic. Hey, you're home, like you got pandemic years. Walk into a listing appointment, be like, what do you think your house is worth? I don't know, 600. Wrong, it's 650. When never in my life have I ever walked in and told a seller that they can't guess how high their property is. They could not. They'd be like, what are you talking about? How is my house worth $50,000 to $100,000 more? By the way, we were wrong. You put it on the market and it still got $100,000 on top of that. We couldn't even guess how crazy buyers were during that time frame because money was so cheap to rent. We are now doing the opposite. It is not cheap to rent money. you will have to discount your home. You're gonna have to give back some of that pandemic free money that you are so adamant about keeping. And then we have to handle it with care in that conversation, like a therapist. Welcome to real estate in 2025. Okay, so here's some positive news. We were concerned because pending sales were down 3.2% at the end of January, excuse me. We were like, down from what? Down from the same time last year. We hated 2024 and we started off at a worse start this year. Less people were buying. And inventory went up 22% overnight. Not a good start. Positive news, pending listings under contract went up 8% this last month compared to this last month, excuse me. February was 8% higher than January, okay? Technically, March is 8% higher than February, but you got to be careful. When I give you listings under contract, it is like this last week. In March, this is where we were at, and I did the same in February. Sometimes stats are like, hey, February to January, listings under contract is a little bit more real-time number, March to February, because here we are in March talking about February numbers. So I do want you to know here, this is like week 2 of March, and this was week 2 of February, okay? Just to be clear. So we got an 8% gain there. And in Greater Phoenix, this gap is shortening. This is good. Only a 0.32% difference. We're just 0.32% under where we were a year ago in listings under contract. So that gap is starting to close. I like to believe that number will be outperformed by the end of next month. Like when I'm in front of you again, next market update, 12 months ago, I'll be able to say it's performing better than a year ago. Okay. Sold homes, we had 20% more that happened in February than January. We're almost 1% better than a year ago. Okay. Those are a little bit of the markers why I believe that we'll start seeing a positive trend of outperforming 2024. It just was not a good start. That's all. And there's that average price per square foot. It went down $2, but luxury is still keeping it well above 300. And that's all that's keeping it well above 300 is luxury. Okay. Do not let your clients get fooled by that. All right. As I was mentioning here, how are we doing on time? Okay. So in previous market updates, this page was called like interesting talking points. And right now, I cannot get enough. I'm sorry. I have gotten enough phone calls to know that we have a listing conversion problem, not the agreement to actual getting it sold. Okay. And so what I wanted is to write this as if I'm speaking to your clients directly so that you could deliver said market update and be like, we're meeting tomorrow about listing your home. Would you mind if I get you over our market update for March? And I'd love you to read through that so that hopefully you can get angry at the piece of paper before I come to your house. Okay. And so here are some things. You're going to go, Alex, I think you said that last month. I think you guys want to learn something about real estate agents and most humans. They have to hear something 4 to 5 times before they take action on it. So get ready for me to talk about this 4 to 5 times so you guys start taking action on it. Okay. So number 1, shorter open houses more often. I'm going to ask you guys, like I asked the other offices, and then I'm going to tell you what they said. When was the last time any of you were not like because you clicked the link your client sent you and, you know, looked at the address and then went over to Armless? I mean, sincerely spent time on Zillow. A lot. Okay. Because of Todd and Lisa. But because they're sending you the link. Yes? Oh, good read. Okay, awesome. So 1 agent. When was the last time you spent an adamant amount of time on Zillow, not because the client sent you a link to look at the property? No. Okay. I would use an F word right now about how big you guys are messing up. Okay, and let me tell you why. And I'm being serious right now. If you go on Zillow, I'm gonna tell you, long story short, this is the nice version on paper of what is about to come out of my mouth. Okay. Number one, when you schedule your open houses, you guys are not going on Zillow, typing in your zip code, clicking more, and check marking must have open houses. And you are not looking at the quantity of open houses that are happening in your zip code at the same time that you plan on doing an open house. And you are not looking at how wide of a range these open houses are. 10 to 1, 11 to 2, 12 to 2, 11 to 3. And then you got the one open door one, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay. And depending on what day you look at it, Thursday, Friday, this Saturday, this Saturday, this Saturday, this Saturday, this Saturday, this Saturday, this Saturday. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, this is my point, is that you guys are not going on the number one search portal in all of America where you, by the way, ready? Check how quickly how quickly all of you raise your hand. Raise your hand if your client has texted you, said, hey, we're going to go look at an open house that we just saw. Where do you think they're doing that?
No.
Thanks, Brett. Number one, think like the consumer. If you go on there and you're looking at open houses and there's 20 open houses to go to in the zip code, right? Whether they match the criteria you're looking for or not, you're just bored. Just gonna go look at homes, okay? If you started your day at 10 in the morning, because that's when the open house starts, right? And you show up putting on an open house at 12, do you think that those people are making it all the way to 12 o'clock? So let's pretend and you go, oh, I hear you, Alex. Perfect. So I'll start at 10 o'clock like the rest of them. Do you think if 20 open houses start at 10 a.m., what are the chances that you get to be part of the one that, like, how many do you think they go to before they look over at their partner? Like, hey, are you over this? Can we please go to brunch and drink? Yeah, that's my guess too, right? Hey, we got to go pick up the kids. Soccer's almost over. Hey, we got to go. Hey, we got to go. Hey, we got to go. We'll come back later. They're open till 2. Do they ever come back? If you were a consumer on Zillow and saw 20 open houses that started at 10 o'clock and you had the listing that was from 10 to 11 and you had 20 to pick from and you saw one that you really liked was over in an hour, would that make your top 3 to make it over to? One of our agents is at Awatuki yesterday, you would have thought I paid her like under the table to like be a spokesperson for this, right? She's like, huh, I heard you 2 months ago when you started talking about this. Like, this has been great. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? She's like, yeah, my clients have been in heaven with me doing these 1-hour open houses. I was like, tell me more. Tell the whole class more. And she's like, oh yeah. She's like, by the way, I've been doing Thursdays, Fridays, 4 to 5, 1 hour. She's like, I've had agents thanking me that I'm doing open houses at times that's tough to meet up, but easy for their clients because I'm mixing up the times of the open houses, shorter open houses more often. She's like, I got properties in Queen Creek that I got people walking through. She's like, my listings are, my showings are going up. And I was like, I swear I didn't care. I promise I didn't care. So yeah, you have to start looking at this differently, which then brings me to your price drop should not be desperate. They should be strategic. Okay. I shared last month about price drops every Friday for $100. And trust me, the mixed emotions in every single room that I dropped that in are like, right? Guys, there is no cheaper marketing than that By the way, let me ask you guys a question. If you had a $600,000 home, okay, and you're at 600, you listed at 599.99, okay, and you've been on the market and you don't sell opening week, right? You've now been on the market for 3-4 weeks. You're like, shit, I gotta do something, right? And you don't know what to do. No listing agent knows what to do. What else do? You put all your efforts in the first couple of weeks. You spent your money on it. You did your open houses. You're like, I don't know. This is the seller's fault. They won't drop the price. Okay. Sit with me for a second. You're at 600. It's been 3-4 weeks. If you are at the end of 3 months, we're at 598,800. Would that impact the offer that you were probably going to get regardless if you stayed at 600 that whole time? Does that question make sense? You're at 600, never change anything. What kind of offer do you think you're getting 2-3 months later?
So, in this market, maybe. Problem.
Yeah, 580, right? They'd be like, well, hell, shit, throw them 570, maybe, right? Like, hey, if you were at 598,800, and I'll tell you why in a second. Do you think your offer is gonna be impacted by it? Do you think you're still gonna get 580, 570, 585, 575, right? Why was that? Why did I pick a number 1,200 lower? Because 12 weeks and 3 months, if you dropped it $100 on every Friday, your listing would be elevated to the top of the #1 search portal above all the other scale listings in your zip code. This one just price reduced. This one just price reduced. This one just price reduced. This one didn't. This one didn't. This one didn't. This one didn't times 1,000 in your zip code, most likely. Okay. And Align sends it out, and Zillow sends it out. Hey, this is a property like what you're looking for. Hey, you saved this one. Hey, it is the cheapest marketing that if you ask me, assuming the home wasn't ever going to sell in the first week as it is, that is practically free. It's just a make-believe $100 every month that you were never going to get in the first place. And are you having that conversation with yourself?
Yes.
You are. I know the millennials are. Jody called me immediately. She's like, genius, we're getting showings on our Goodyear property. Yes or yes? So, sell the lifestyle. Guys, I am right there with you for so long. I'm like Rocket Lister, Listing Pro, Lister Pro, etc. Lister Sister. I love them. They're great. And things have to change with the photographers we use. We have to start selling lifestyle. My team leader at Scottsdale had an appointment with a $70 million producer, and her biggest takeaway was he said to her, I shit you not, Silverleaf, right? Silverleaf agent. He goes, I don't even care about the house. I sell the lifestyle that is Silverleaf. And I was like, damn, that's a strong sentence. You get it, right? Andrew gets it, right? Like you sell the lifestyle, and that's true. I know sometimes we get that property, you're like, what lifestyle? Right? Like this area is like, I get it. Sometimes there isn't a lifestyle. You've got to get creative. My #1 favorite activity to do. Again, I love Rocket Lister. I do. I think they have great photographers. They run a massive business. They're very organized. They streamline they are great leverage. I don't think there's better leverage on the planet when it comes to a listing than Rocket Lister. And I'm sorry, Ryan, if you can ever hear me, but I hate their public remarks. They are the worst. Okay. And so what I do is I take their public remarks, I copy the whole thing, and these are my steps. Ready? I go to ChatGPT. I open up a chat and I paste the public remarks. I put them in quotes so that ChatGPT understands. I then tell it, hey, I need to write new public remarks for my listings, and the ones that I just shared with you suck. Okay? I need you to help me rewrite public remarks that do not exceed 800 characters, including spaces, that are lifestyle focused. I'm going to upload my 5 favorite pictures. By the way, we're going to touch on that in a second here. My 5 favorite pictures And then I need you to ask me 5 questions that would help you create this lifestyle focused public remarks. And so it does, and I answer, and I get beautiful public remarks. Okay. Proof number 3, I know that you guys are not going on Zillow. And if I ever see this with a Northeast agent, they are going to hear from me personally. How many properties does Zillow show before you say, show me more photos?
3.
Wrong.
The properties display.
Did I say property? Photos. How many photos does it show on the property before you click show me more photos?
Well, it does vary from phone to computer.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll answer this question in real time. On computer, I have an answer. Let's see what it is for mobile. So what do you guys think the answer is? I'm pulling up Zillow, so I'll check here in real time. So 8.5, I'm gonna check my own backyard.
It's 3.
On mobile? Okay, it's 3 on mobile. It's 5 on desktop, excuse me. Okay, nonetheless, this even further enhances my point. If I
So I do go on Zillow. I just want that noted.
I know you do, Laura, because we talked about this. So if I go on and I see that anybody at any of my offices has not changed their pictures up because I'm on Zillow, and whether it's the first 3 or the first 5 is front of the house. Front of the house from this angle. Front of the house from this angle. If we make it to mobile to desktop and it's 5, check out the front of the house with the street showing on this boring ass curb appeal, but it's what Rocket Lifter sent me. So please change your photos to reflect your first 5, not first, your best 5 photos that you have from your photographer. I cannot believe it. If you guys go look at open door listings, I don't know if they know how to show anything but the front of the house that you did nothing to, because we know that they just painted and did carpet on the inside. Every single listing. I actually was like, can I create a business that like goes and helps Rocket like open door market their homes better? I could not believe it. Like, guys, are you guys shopping like a consumer when you have a listing and think about what's going to sell this home? Because the answer collectively across our industry is no. I cannot believe that people are like, I'm going to leave the front of the house as my first 4 photos. So that when somebody clicks on Zillow, do you think somebody's clicking more photos? No. Especially if you're on the brink of like, I don't like the front of that house. Like, you have the most stunning thing inside, and all they see is the front of the house for 5 photos, and you're on the top side of their budget. So they're like, blows my mind. Move your photos around. Spiro is really good about talking about this. He's been doing this for ages. Okay. And tell your clients to like, okay, I want to be full disclaimer. In sports and entertainment, in luxury, privacy is a very important thing. I understand there's a huge caveat to this last point. For the typical individual, the typical listing, your mid-range seller, they're not hiding from anybody. Have them post their listing on social media. Have them participate in the marketing efforts. Hey, we were spoiled for a long time where you point at me, you say, get it sold, I'll be back and get it sold for you. Okay. Like every bit counts. The photos count, the public remarks count, the shorter and more frequently open houses count, the price drops count. You have 300 people on your Facebook friends. Every single one of those people have 300 people that they know. Be like, oh, somebody just told me they're moving to Chandler, to Anthem, to Peoria. Have your clients participate in pushing out their own listing. This is a joint effort. They didn't just hire you to market the home. They hired you to save them when it's the 11th hour and the buyer's not performing. And now what do? And you get creative. Lacey just left, but hey, I got this over to another lender who might be able to save the deal. That's why they hire us. Okay. We got to become better listing agents right now. This is the biggest problem I'm seeing, and I see why. Because we won't have tough conversations. We don't know how to list a home properly. We aren't going above and beyond. We're just doing the same step and repeat as every other agent. Of course, your listing didn't sell. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm being harsh, but like this, when you start looking into this, it's like embarrassing. You're like, shit. We haven't. So we need to teach more listing classes, like as a market center, right? Like across collectively all four. This shouldn't just be the best agent has it figured out and the rest of us aren't winning. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what's happening here locally, just very quick. The narrative is very simple. More listings, more sales. We kind of already knew that from 2 pages ago, right? More listings under contract. We had 20% increase in sales. So here's one of the areas that I did find interesting. Where was it? 2 million plus over here broke even in sales. I say that because over in Scottsdale, we had an increase across all the markets on luxury. So know that over here, like we still did, there was 2 of them and we had 2 the month before. It was a break even from the previous month. So just kind of keep that in mind, that 2 million plus isn't like super luxury isn't performing that amazing up here in North Phoenix, but 1 to 2 million, we had 10 more sell than we did the month before. Okay. So if you're at all in luxury on this side, keep that in mind. Now this is another one that I find kind of interesting. The 600 to 800 range, we only had 4 more increase in that one as well, pointing towards that 600 to 800 is still getting beat up. Like, because if you look right below it, and this kind of is almost like the rapid stats conversation I had with you guys, you know, there was 14 more from 500 to 600 compared to the month before, but only 4 for 6 to 800. Okay, so we're seeing that affordability to play a role over here. Oh, by the way, it's ironic. Tell me, by the way, then you'd be like, oh, so 800 to a million must have gotten beaten up. Nope, 8 more sold at 800 to a million. So for whatever reason, and oh, by the way, it's not because of a lack of inventory. 6 to 800 has 235 active listings, where 1 million to 2 million only has 131. And there was more people that bought in that price range than the month before than compared to 6 to 800. I think that's a big deal. If right now you got the listing for 6 to 800, I'd be having a different conversation than 800 to a million is what I'm trying to point out here. Okay, so all right, cash was a little better than 1 out of 5. This is just MLS. Just FYI, it does not include tax records because you guys are showing up as a listing agent and you're going to talk about what's happening on the MLS primarily. So keep that in mind. This number did go down 7%, less cash transactions this last month than the month before. Okay. I will say that collectively there was small drop. That was the biggest. North Phoenix and above here had the biggest drop in cash transactions out of any segment in the valley. Listing as well. This was interesting. It was the only segment, North Phoenix was the only segment that actually had a decline in the number of listings and expireds. Everywhere else had more expired or listings than the month before. This had less. Only 19 less, but less nonetheless. I apologize. I feel like I'm giving a little bit of bad news. Like I'm like, oh, it only did this, it only did that. But it's important to know, right? Because it changes your marketing strategies. Okay. Also, this was interesting. This was the first time since I've been doing the market updates. Homes that successfully sold, how many of them did it in 60 days or less? This number is now under 50% for this part of the valley. Okay. Now, I will say there's worst performing 90 days, right below. So over in Peoria, so this is really interesting. Surprise, Peoria, Sun City West, everything like that. 67% of them did it in 90 days or less. Up here, 68%. But this was the worst performing in 60 days or less, at only 49% of them. Everybody else was above 50. Okay. Very interesting how that worked out. So now 1 out of every 4 homes was a cash offer over in the Northwest area. And though 62% of those cash deals were in age restricted neighborhoods. Okay. So there's not some anomaly that, we don't have the age restricted up here like we do over there, obviously with Sun City and Sun City West. But so the majority of cash transactions are because of that age restricted population just buying cash, from downsizing from their previous home most likely. Okay. 373 listings expired or canceled, which is up 68. Okay. For time purposes, nothing to really write home about. This page is there for you guys when it comes to Keller Williams. You guys can see that we finished at a 1.26%. I will say we were under 1%, or these 2 offices were under 1% last month. So that part's really cool. Well above, 1.26% market share, right? To put into perspective, Sonora and Living's 2 offices, 1.5. Okay. So very, I would say for the most part, very comparable. And our agent count is much smaller than theirs. So really great job, guys. Hey, Open Door, 47 more pendings than the month before for Open Door. I don't know what story that necessarily tells yet, because remember, for it to be pending, that means it was an active listing. For it to be an active listing, they had already bought it and bought it as a cash deal and remodeled it and put it back on the market. So their inventory all of a sudden had a little bit of a bump. I will tell you, I don't know if this means you should use this strategy or not. Every single Open Door listing, their public remarks lead with seller to consider buyer concessions, written an offer or something like that. First sentence on every single listing. Do with that what you will. OfferPad, like if you look at OfferPad and consider them a like Open Doors competition, they only had 2 more pending, right? Now, as I shared in the beginning of the class, these individuals may have listings that they're not emotional, right? Like, hey, I'm going to hit you for 30,000 under and ask for concessions and let's see where we finish. Like, you're not offending anybody on the other side. It's just a number. Do we want it off our portfolio or do we not? Right? So Cydia, 72 sold in just 990. Raise your hand if you saw the Home 2X thing that rolled out. Let's go. So they started pushing it. Yes, it did. It was, you're right. And this last month is when it really got unveiled. And so if you're not familiar with this, you need to be. Home 2X. Let me explain what the 2X is. Greg Haig and his partners are going to buy properties from people and give them the cash up front. And here's where the 2X part comes in. Your house is 600. Great, we'll give you 500 cash now. 450 cash now, whatever, right? And then after you've gotten to move on to your dreams and your goals and downsize, upgrade, whatever you're going to do with your money, then we're going to list your house using 72 sold proprietary software, very proprietary software, put it on the market, and then try to sell it for the 600. And let's say if it did successfully sell for 600, then minus their fees, they will then pay the seller that second portion of their equity. Okay, so they are basically saying, let me give you freedom and still try to make you more money on the other side. You will run into that into a listing appointment, and you need to think about how you would like to combat that.
So that's not a hedge fund play?
For them?
Yeah.
No, because they're trying to unload
these two bites of the apple.
No, I think yeah.
They're not waiting for the market to change, they're doing it immediately.
They're doing immediately. They're listing the home. Yeah. Yeah, they're not holding, so that's why, yeah. Right here, Redfin, just where's that for you? Redfin. Anybody see the news?
Alright.
Yeah. Rocket companies purchased Redfin. Redfin is the third largest search portal for consumers. Rocket Mortgage already gets an absurd amount of mortgage leads. The amount of leads they get is insane. Like one of my Rocket partners alone in Phoenix get 3 to 5 leads a day of people thinking about getting pre-qualified to buy a house. A day, one person in Phoenix. I don't know what they're going to do with this, but it's something to pay attention to. Okay. So, flat fee and homey, like flat fee people, nothing really to write home about as well. You see the numbers and then homey. So, they're the performance of almost an individual agent. I don't know how much longer they can hang on, but we'll see. Or they have something they're doing that has nothing to do with the MLS, and I don't know about it yet, but as a brand in the MLS stuff. Okay. All right, real quick. This is awesome. Mayo Clinic has just announced they're going to invest 1.9 billion into Arizona expansion. This is their biggest investment yet into Phoenix. And that expansion is set to bring 3,500 jobs to the valley. ASU is going to break ground on a $200 million health campus in downtown Phoenix. There were no stats about what this could translate to into jobs, but let's be clear. When ASU expands, so does the agent count. So we get more Gen Z coming to the valley. They were already making up 26% of our new transplants to the valley. So things like that, just think about who it is that you're marketing to and so forth. And TSMC, you guys are hear about it so much more frequently because you're in the backyard of it. So your market center is in the backyard of it. And Apple, let me tell you something that's not said here or in this article. Apple absolutely made already like comments about how this administration and the tariffs that they're going to impose, it will have a massive negative impact on their cost for manufacturing their phones and devices. And along with that, they just made a multi-billion-dollar commitment to Phoenix manufacturing. Why? That's their chip manufacturers right here in our backyard. So Apple's like, we're coming too. Okay, which is awesome for us. Maybe, or we just turn into the next Silicon Valley, in which, then it's debatable. So, okay, interest rate. Already told you we're at 6.7, at least as of when I made this. Hopefully we can hang out there a little bit instead of raising right back up to 7. I will say that that's in anticipation of, that we think the investors still think we're going to see rates drop, and then they get unpleasantly surprised that the Fed has no interest in doing so because the markers don't point towards needing to. So, but I do like to still show this page, and like I said, even in the last 52 weeks, we're as high as 7.52. That's a conversation to have with your client. Like, hey, like it was worse at some point in the last year. Like we're almost at a whole % lower than the worst in the last 52 weeks, right? So, by the way, arguably at 6.7, there are banks that 100% would probably offer 6.5, 6.25, right? So when I say this is like market rate. One loan officer may want to make 3 points, the next one may want to make 1 point, so they're going to offer a better rate, right? Some are going for volume, some are going for quality, I guess you could argue. Okay, so know that when I say it on here, there should be an ability to get better than that, right? Okay. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry. Marketing strategies. Look, I won't bore you guys to death. If you've never been here before, I do put together marketing strategies that are all done for you. I'm just going to touch lightly on them because it's already time flew by, and I apologize. So here we are. If you get over to, why do I have the wrong one? Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. I did create new seller objections. I make them every month for you guys. I sit with ChatGPT and I 100% ask it to Northeast and you. Okay, I'm gonna get there. Sorry, guys. Why do I keep okay, there we go. All right, these are the pages I'm referring to. My apologies. Okay, so marketing strategies. I know these are a little bit hard to see, but so this first square right here, if you click on this, that will open the consumer one that doesn't have the marketing strategies on there. So you can blast that out. 1 minute market update scripts, so that if you want to get in front of the camera, those of you that have been, the scripts are already created with the market update taken into consideration. You will see that, like, if you click on one of these, it'll open up ChatGPT, and I upload the market update as a PDF right here. I upload it and I'm like, I need you to make me these. So here they are. Okay. Now, what I really wanted to show you was over here on market data scripts for seller objections. This will take you to a Google Doc. I spend time with ChatGPT. It comes up with stuff. I'm like, that sucked, do better. And then I tell it why it could do better and where it was wrong. And I spend quite amount of time putting these together for you guys. So there is objection handlers approved by me, like that they're actually good. Hey, there's too many listings on the market right now. Won't my home get lost in the competition? Guess what we just talked about today? 4 winning seller strategies to stand out amongst all those listings, right? So option number 2, I heard the buyers have all the leverage right now. I don't want to sell at a discount. Okay, yes, they do have leverage. And here's where we can win in implementing those seller strategies that we talked about today, okay? Hey, I'll just wait for rates to go down. Well, more buyers will enter the market then, right? Yeah, that's a big question. So are you willing to wait for something that might not come? The last time that we had 7% interest rates, like back in the like 80s, it took us like 20 plus years before rates dropped down below 7%. Because we want it, we keep thinking it's coming, and nothing's pointing towards that rates should drop down. So we talk about the economy being strong in that one, right? The market's weird right now. I don't want to take a gamble on timing or hiring. Or I'm sorry, I don't want to take a gamble on timing. So it'll give you a script for that, and I'm worried my house won't sell fast enough. Okay. So those are there for you, which then brings me to this very last one, bottom right corner, that I don't think we're using enough. And we should, is I have ChatGPT squared ready to go to use for you to be able to use it as a role play partner. Whether you want to talk voice to it or type to it, whatever you're good with. If you're embarrassed to talk to a robot in your own privacy, that's on you. But practice your scripts. I cannot stress that enough, guys. Like, you do not wait. If you can't find a role play partner, but you will see that it's ready to go, waiting for you to pick up from there and try to convince it. And I told it, you need to go through an emotional roller coaster with them first before allowing logic to win the listing agreement. Okay. All right. I'm going to put the QR code back up in case we're not here, but so that you can get that again. What questions do you guys have before we wrap up? I'm sorry we ran a little bit after tech was a pain today.
I really like what you just did. I just clicked into mine, and my chat went through and reviewed everything in the market update, so it automatically downloaded everything into the market.
Yeah.
So it'll be ready to go with everything.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
How do I get that QR code to my computer and copy the link and send an email?
Just type that link at the very top. Well, what you should do is take a picture instead of scan the QR code. So take a picture of it so that you have the URL to type it on your computer later. Yeah. So remember, the consumer version, to get the consumer version, you go to the marketing strategies of this link and click blast out this report. That will open up the consumer one, which what that does is remove the marketing strategy. Everything else is the same. Okay. I know some people like download it as a PDF and then send it through a title company, and then they alter the front cover and put their photo on it. Whatever. Do you if you want to. I think it weighs not I don't say this out of like arrogance or like my own big headedness, as Courtney will tell you that I have, right? But it's because I think it means volumes that it's coming from like a third party source instead of you. Be like, hey, you should read like what our brokerage owners like put together. And then when you go to meet with them, you know, it's like, hey, what did you think of that resource that I shared with you from our brokerage? Right? Like, you know, what questions do you have from there specifically that have you concerned about listing your home? Right?
I think it's even more than that, because what this was all about was thinking like a consumer, right? So you hand somebody this brochure, they go, oh, that's really cool. They talk from the front seat of their car and go
Oh,
away. Da, da, da.
totally.
When they start into a flip stack deal, they're like, oh, wow, it's really cool. And I can flip it as fast as I want. Oh, I can click on this.
Yeah.
So I think it's much more valuable.
Good. Thank you.
So you can take your big head and stick it through the door, because it's worth it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you end it, please? Like, end the meeting? That's so funny. Sorry, Zoom people, computer malfunction. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being on. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. You're welcome, guys.